Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tokyo Ghoul Re. I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore. So today we got a chapter that has definitely explored a lot of stuff that obviously isn't Furuta, which I guess I'm a little bit salty about, but at the same time I'm not. I'm not that salty, to be completely honest, because we explore a lot more of the V organization, as well as we get more insight on a bunch of different things, which, to be completely honest, we've been wanting the answers for a very long time. First and foremost, Furuta in the beginning of this chapter is seemingly very shaky. What I specifically mean by this and how it kind of follows and correlates with the rest of the chapter, which takes place with everyone else, the CCG, the ghouls, the V organizations, kind of all battling it out at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Furuta has actually tried to finesse everyone, right? So there's like a couple of different things that make me believe that Furuta has actually fully finessed the V organization as well, because obviously Furuta and V are working hand in hand together, right? But in this chapter, it's kind of implied that Furuta has lent more on his personal agenda to put direction into Rise specifically, and not the whole worldly aspect of what V are trying to do. I feel like that situation in itself would fit Furuta perfectly, considering he is a selfish character. We've literally just seen a chapter of him wanting all of this stuff that he couldn't have. He literally wants everything, and he wants to achieve everything and get everything his own way. It wouldn't necessarily be a surprise to me if he pictured the V organization very similar to the Washu family, someone that he holds a massive grudge against, someone that, you know, kind of stands in his way, hence why he takes out the Washu family, but yet uses the V organization to do it. He knows that he cannot oppose the V organization without a powerhouse behind it. So what better way for his character, a manipulative, snide, conniving, goofy, sneaky character, to manipulate the V organization right along with them, kind of mold and construct a plan for the future, then ultimately switch it right at the end to help benefit his own personal agenda, which I think fits perfectly. I think that's a really cool thing, considering Rise could evidently be that powerhouse, especially with the way the chapter kind of explains quote-unquote controlling ghouls at this point. It could be going down to the direction of Furuta specifically and only him wanting to control Rise, to either for a selfish reason, to, you know, him and Rise being the only two people to be with each other, or on the world if you will, or if he just generally wants to control Rise to kill absolutely everyone. That's it, just him and Rise, right? It seems like V want Rise as a powerhouse. They want to use her as a weapon and be able to control her to obviously rule over the world. It's basically what everyone thought the V organization was going to be. It's what I talked about them potentially trying to be, a powerhouse that is trying to overthrow everything that is in their way so they can hold, you know, the reins of power basically. So they are the kings of everything and they rule over absolutely everyone. Now, considering the Washu family was kind of the only stipulation there, V took everything for the taking. Now, the CCG is technically the only thing that is actually in their way, and that's only thanks to, you know, Hide and Marude and Matsuri coming back and actually rekindling the CCG fire to, you know, bring that spark back up. So at the moment you have, you know, the perfect confliction of, you know, humans, or, you know, the CCG versus the V organization, which are like these power-hungry government officials, if you want to call them that, basically, that want to use and abuse the ghoul nature. And then you have Kaneki's group, obviously, who are trying to kind of mesh and mold the entire world together. And then you have Furuta, who at this point kind of seems like he wants everything to himself, but ultimately wants to destroy everything along the way, potentially finessing everyone that he's worked with up to this point to use Rise as that big powerhouse weapon. It's very interesting. The chapter goes on to explain ghouls being specifically controlled. Now, we've seen a lot of different variations of this, and we weren't really sure how it was possible, but we get a little bit more clarification in terms of research backing all the way to Germany. It was something that they didn't want to do because I believe they failed at it, or it might have been a little bit too dangerous. But realistically, what I think they're doing is they're basically creating, maybe not lifeless beings, because it's kind of hit or miss at this point, but we've seen examples of it with Shinohara, who was very knowledgeable of himself. He was very self-aware, which is kind of what they call it in the chapter. But at the same time, I don't think Shinohara remembered anything about himself, nor what he'd done, nor his past, or anything like that. Did he remember specific characters? I feel like he did, but I honestly can't remember. Maybe it came back, and maybe that's a result of it as well being extremely dangerous. But to put simply, right, because there is characters that come back into the story that are being controlled by the V organization. What I mean by this is that those two characters were kind of deemed dead. They were killed off, the ape and the dog woman or whatever, right? I can't remember the names, I forget. Banjo and Kimi? No, I don't know. But basically they were killed off, like off screen, and it turns out they come back and they're completely different. They're changed at this point. They're being used and controlled, right? Now, they're obviously not themselves. They kind of go through a little bit of dialogue or conversation between one another, and it's very obscure, it's very murky, it's not even a conversation, if you will. It's like more grunts and moans, so something's obviously not right. And then to back it up, you get Eto, who kind of pops out of the monster at this point, you know, putting up the finger, like, just to kind of balance out the entirety of the chapter. And I'm like, okay, you have Kaiko come through with, you know, the Q's and Quinkei or whatever, just absolutely obliterating people, and I'm like, holy guys, slow down, please. We're just obliterating through all of this information and dialogue really quickly. When they explained the process of ghouls being controlled by manipulating the Kakaho to activate a Quinkei per se, very similar to what I assume to be the framing out process regarding like Yuri and Matsuki, for example, except somehow they have managed to implement that into ghouls specifically. I'm not sure if they can revive dead ghouls. Only time will tell if they do bring back a character that we know is confirmed dead, which is Shirazu. But basically, what you can kind of put down what they're doing is they are manipulating the Kakaho, having like a remote or a control over the Kakaho, and basically stimulating the body to forcefully keep it alive. So they have full control over that body. They then take that body and they can manipulate it in any way, shape, or form. Now that's very similar to Shinohara when he relayed information and saying that he cannot disappear, he could not, you know, have any free will because he was restricted. He needed to take things so he would be alive. Maybe that was the case for it, and saying that he could not, you know, be his own person because he was being controlled or manipulated, or he was basically held on a leash or a remote control that he couldn't escape from. Just a little bit of food for thought. This is very dangerous for a lot of different reasons, because if this is the main concept that the V is trying to do, ultimately trying to have power over everything, somehow they have managed to take this experiment, obviously with Dr. Kanau's help, and obviously it originating from Germany and them kind of disbanding the whole experiment process. The fact that it's in V's hands makes them a extremely dangerous target, because they can do it with probably anyone that ultimately is not, I don't want to say extremely powerful, but I'm assuming at this point that they have to die and they have to get to that person rather quickly. I believe they can't just take a dead body out of the ground and revive them. I think there is a process of a character dying and going through kind of like the post-mortem or whatever. Through that stage is they can kind of reactivate the body before it officially kills itself or conks itself out, or the RC cells specifically conk out. They kind of, you know, bump it back up again, and the RC cells kind of re-heal the body that's basically been dead, and the V organization, I guess, put something in it or manage to control it to an extent so they can warp and control the Kakaho to any degree that they want. It seems very complex in nature. I guess Ishida has played on that to an extent, but this is kind of the first time we're getting real information on it, which I'm very excited for. The reason why I say I don't think they can use it on ghouls that are alive is the Eto situation that happens directly after it, right? So we know Eto was in that monster, right? Or we knew a character was in that monster. It was either Haru or Eto or whatever. And then in this chapter, Eto pops her head out and she's putting up the finger, and she's, you know, basically herself all over again. You know, she's having a great time now. I think they tried to use the same process as what they used as a lot of the ghouls that they manipulated in this chapter, but it ultimately didn't work with her because, one, I don't think she was actually dead at the time, or two, she may be too powerful. The reason why I think it's more so the fact that she wasn't dead properly, or they waited too long, is because they're most likely going to try and control Rize, and if she's too powerful, what would be the point? You know what I mean? So I think it's more so the fact that maybe Eto didn't specifically die, and then it's kind of more so like, why wouldn't they kill Eto to ultimately try and control her? Like, why wouldn't they specifically kill her themselves and then control her? So maybe it's a gamble, maybe there's a stipulation there, I'm not entirely sure, but it obviously has something to do with Kakaho. Maybe she was too damaged to ultimately accidentally heal herself to that extent, so maybe they had to keep her alive and then kill her. See, I don't know, there's a weird timeline there, but basically Donato's version of it was that he was the one controlling her, right? He was the one that specifically had control over Riza, so when Donato went, she's back to normal, right? She's fully healed at this point, so I'm thinking Donato was the one suppressing her. He was the one controlling her, he was the one stopping her from healing, hence the amount of crosses that he had on the body, that he had literally nailed into Eto's main bodies that she couldn't heal. She was being controlled. You know, maybe to that extent, characters don't have to die. Maybe they can just be forcefully skewered and manipulated to be controlled. They just have to be injured enough for the V organization to go to work with them. Eto is probably a completely different situation just because of the caliber of her cargo that she was in, the amount of RC cells that she was producing. So I assume Donato had to use all of his efforts to control her and suppress all of the healing that she was doing, as well as the fact that, you know, if she out-healed Donato's suppressing, grew back her head and her free conscious, basically, it'd be game over. That's probably a reason why there was a lot of emphasis on all of the crosses that was struck throughout Eto's body, as well as the fact that it was rather massive in general in terms of RC cell usage. So, like, I'm trying to think of ideas, but at the same time, I'm really fucking tired, so I'm like, I honestly don't know. But to end off the chapter, you had this confrontation with Kaiko and Suzuya being in a very stickly situation because his Arata arm is getting cut, obviously with the Kuzan Quinke, which is pretty wild, pretty powerful, and then Matsuki comes in with, you know, a bunch of other people that are like, oh look, we're here to save you, we're here to verse the V organization now. Renji Yomo shows up, I assume Uta's most likely going to show up, and then you have Naki and his squad kind of come through and be like, hey, you know, we're back as well, we're here to fuck shit up. And V were taken back by this. I don't know why they were so taken back by Naki and himself, considering he's not a massive threat. So I'm thinking that Furuta has actually spread false information, because he does imply that Furuta said something about Naki being already gone, and like, well, this wasn't part of the plan, or this wasn't what Furuta reported. So maybe Furuta is spreading false information. Maybe Furuta, like I said, is trying to push his own agenda, which fits his character perfectly. So that's basically it. There is a lot of stuff in this chapter. For one, I actually rather enjoyed it because we need this information. As much as this chapter was, you know, really all over the place in terms of pacing, honestly, I do not care, because we need this clarification. We need this, you know, explanation to help kind of fill in the blanks and fill in the gaps. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword at this point. It's like the more information that Ishida gives us, the more blanks that it actually creates. And it's like, does it equal out? I don't know. I don't think it does. Not yet, at least. Like right now, I feel like I have a lot more questions than answers. I feel like Ishida has created more blanks with this chapter by filling in some of the blanks that we needed. There is a lot to explore with V controlling ghouls specifically. That kind of works hand in hand with them wanting to control Rize, who is supposedly, you know, could be theoretically extremely fucking powerful, and that basically certifying the rule over the world. Do I think they can bring back like Arima, for an example? I don't think so. You know, I'm just gonna say it here. I don't think they'll bring back Arima, just because of the fact that he didn't have much ghoul in him. I do think it is possible for Shirazu to come back, but he won't be the same person, obviously. But then you could say the same thing about Arima, but then it's kind of like Arima wasn't a ghoul to begin with, so it's like, does it work? Does it not work? What are the stipulations for actually resurrecting and controlling a specific ghoul? Why didn't they resurrect Eto? Or is Eto even resurrected to begin with? She seems perfectly fine, but I guess you don't know at this point. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But the semantics is what we need right now for controlling ghouls. Unless I've completely missed out on something, which I most likely have because I'm tired, but, you know, forgive me. And that's basically it. Before I end off the video, I do want to mention that there will be a massive announcement for next week's chapter. Do not be surprised if the series comes to an end in the next 10 or less chapters. See, I wouldn't even expect 10 more chapters, to be honest. That's most likely what the announcement is going to be, the end of Tokyo Ghoul Re. Do we get a part 3? I don't know. Does the story end completely? Most likely. Does the story come to a full finish? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So with that being said, I'm actually going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.